Well, after a dull few weeks, boxing is picking back up again, folks. This weekend, we got the return of Teofimo Lopez and some news involving the Bronze Bomber, Deontay Wilder and Zurdo Ramirez. Roll that beautiful bean footage.
I hear him. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
Hey, what's up with it, family? It's Hot Boxing Minute, your favorite pharmaceutical engineer turned boxing analyst, back at you with the realness, of course, as only I could bring it to you. And it wouldn't be right if Teofimo Lopez had a fight week coming up and I didn't at least discuss it. So unless you've been living in a cave, you probably already heard. Teofimo Lopez is making his return to the ring this weekend in Las Vegas. He's going to be fighting against a relatively unknown dude by the name of Pedro Campa. Now, Teofimo Lopez hasn't fought since last September in 2021 when he fought and lost to George Kambosos Jr., kind of fumbled it and lost the unified lightweight championship of the world. It is what it is. We all watched it as it happened. Nobody thought George Kambosos Jr. was actually going to win, and when he did, everyone was shocked. I was shocked. Keep it real. Only hardcore Australian George Kambosos Jr. fans really thought that George Kambosos Jr. was going to beat Teofimo Lopez, and lightning struck. He won. He beat him pretty handily, too. Now, going into that fight, I don't know what the odds were, but we all thought Teofimo Lopez was going to knock him out. We really did. We had seen previous fights involving George Kambosos Jr. with guys like Mickey Bay and Lee Selby that were, they were wins, but there was nothing really spectacular in George Kambosos Jr.'s end to make us think he was going to beat Teofimo Lopez. No knock to George Kambosos Jr. He's a tough dude, a great, intelligent boxer, not even boxer, a puncher with boxer features who likes to stay in your face and likes to counterpunch and throw fast shots. Either way, in that fight, we learned a lot about Teofimo Lopez and his dad, Teofimo Lopez Sr. In that fight with George Kambosos Jr., we saw Teofimo Lopez and his corner with his father essentially fall apart in a high-pressure situation. I think their game plan was to come into that fight and get him out of there in the first or second round, which didn't happen. Teofimo blew his whole load, and wouldn't you know it, George Kambosos Jr. capitalized on that moment and ended up becoming the unified lightweight champion after that fight. And that fight itself had a whole bunch of drama surrounding it. But we're here now. It is 2022, and we are on the eve of seeing Teofimo Lopez Jr. return to the ring. Now, Teofimo Lopez took a bit of time off after that loss to George Kambosos Jr. to regroup, lick his wounds, hopefully re-strategize and figure out how he wants to approach a new boxing division. He's moving up to the 140-pound junior welterweight division. Now, will Teofimo Lopez have the same success that he had in 135 in the 140-pound division? I guess we're going to find out soon enough when he tests this relatively unknown guy, Pedro Campa, an undefeated fighter, but still relatively unknown. Actually, before I even go that far in saying he's undefeated, let me just check this real quick. Okay. Oh, he has lost one time to a gentleman named Carlos Jimenez. Never mind. Okay, so Teofimo Lopez Jr. is moving up from the lightweight division of 135 and moving up to the junior welterweight division of 140 pounds. His first fight, his test in the water, so to speak, is going to be against Pedro Campa, an experienced journeyman with a record of 34-1. He's got 23 knockouts. Almost all of Pedro Campa's fights have been in Mexico, so it seems like he was sort of a pick-me choice in the junior welterweight division. Now, I think that's a smart decision by Teofimo Lopez. Not everybody can be, Errol Spence Jr. coming off a Ferrari flipping car crash and decide to come straight out the gate and test Danny Garcia, of which it arguably wasn't Errol Spence Jr.'s best performance. But Errol Spence Jr. still got the win, so this isn't a drag on Errol Spence because the truth is the truth. He's the big fish in a small pond. Anyways, Pedro Campa, 34-1. Looking at it objectively, I don't see what Pedro Campa is going to bring to the table that can really give Teofimo Lopez any complications. Now, Teofimo Lopez, we already know, he's athletic, he's explosive, he's got great ring generalship. When he is not taking his opponent for granted like he did against George Kambosos Jr., Teofimo Lopez is a human knockout highlight reel, complete with Fortnite dances. So the trick to him winning this fight against Pedro Campa is just to not overlook Pedro Campa like he did George Kambosos Jr. Duh. Moment of clarity. So Pedro Campa's, no knock to him. Thorough guy. I'm glad he's coming through for the fight. He is ranked, I want to say, 11th or 12th in the WBC ranking systems. I think that's the only one in the junior welterweight division of the 4 sanctioning bodies that has him in the top 15. But at least he's in there. I think he's like ranked 11th. I'm not going to look it up because I just don't feel like searching for it. Is it here in the box rec? Nope, it doesn't say. Globally, he's ranked number 62 in the division. But yeah, so he is a good enough puncher. I wouldn't say he has a lot of boxer features, but he definitely likes to apply pressure. He is an orthodox fighter, and I think Teofimo Lopez, okay, let me see how I say this. Teofimo Lopez Jr. is coming back to fight against Pedro Campa this weekend in the junior welterweight division. If Teofimo Lopez does not produce like a highlight reel knockout or at least an award-winning stellar performance, does Teofimo Lopez lose face for getting into a tough, long, drag-him-out fight with a guy like Pedro Campa? You tell me. So, if anything, the pressure is on Teofimo Lopez and not on Pedro Campa. Pedro Campa could come in, and I'm sure he definitely isn't overlooking Teofimo Lopez. But Teofimo Lopez, if he overlooks Pedro Campa, good Lord, I don't think he will. I'm pretty sure he's not. But you never know. You never know. Maybe Teofimo Lopez didn't take his loss to George Kambosos seriously. Maybe him and his dad didn't plan, plot, and re-strategize and pick up an additional trainer like they had Joey Gamache in the corner when Teofimo Lopez fought Vasily Lomachenko. But Joey Gamache was not in the corner when he fought George Kambosos Jr. And we saw during that fight, in the middle of the rounds, Teofimo Lopez Sr. didn't really have anything of value to give his son as he was just slowly getting beat on for the duration of that fight against George Kambosos Jr. So, either way, I'm leaning on Teofimo Lopez to get the stoppage. I think Teofimo Lopez is going to return to form and he's going to make a statement to the other champions and the other top-ranked dudes in the division. We know that, Josh Taylor has 2 of the straps. One of them is vacant, the WBA, and then we've got the WBC belt up for grabs with Jose Ramirez and Jose Zepeda. So he's got a lot of interesting potential matches. Teofimo Lopez has to first prove that he can be a factor in the 140-pound division with this fight against Pedro Campa. After that, the doors are wide open. He could potentially fight Regis Prograis. He could end up fighting the winner of the Jose Ramirez-Jose Zepeda fight. He could wait for Josh Taylor to finish up with Jack Cattrall and fight Josh Taylor next. Oh, the possibilities are endless for Teofimo Lopez at the present moment, should he win against Pedro Campa. All right, I'm going to switch subjects real quick. We're going to switch directions on this one because a couple of late-breaking new things. We got some news involving Dimitri Bivol, the man that defeated Canelo Alvarez, has been mandated by the WBA to fight Zurdo Ramirez. Now, initially, after he beat Canelo Alvarez, Initially, after, goodness, see, I get tongue-tied. I start thinking so fast and I get excited and I start losing all track of myself. Anyways, Dimitri Bivol got that stunning win over Canelo Alvarez. Not so stunning if you were following Dimitri Bivol's career, but after that, it looked like Eddie Hearn and Dimitri Bivol were kind of moving in the direction of trying to get a fight with Joshua Buatsi. Well, the WBA shut that down. They said they ratified the mandatory fight between Zurdo Ramirez and Dimitri Bivol. So Dimitri Bivol, that avenue of facing Joshua Buatsi is closed. He's going to have to fight Zurdo Ramirez or get stripped of his WBA title. Now, how does that play out? You got tall, counterpunching Zurdo Ramirez. Some would say it's slow, but everyone looks slow when you're not in the ring with him. And then you got Dimitri Bivol. It's kind of fleet of foot, likes to stay behind his jab. It's an interesting style matchup. Zurdo Ramirez has been chasing down this fight with Dimitri Bivol for years. He's finally getting the opportunity to get a crack at a title in the 175-pound division. Artur Beterbiev, he's chilling. He just won the unification. I don't really know what's next with him, but this fight does look promising. They haven't established a date yet, but it's big news. So at least we know coming up, there's a lot of people that'll criticize boxing, or hold on, what's the word I'm looking for? To people who don't really understand what's going on in boxing, they would criticize boxing and say, we don't get the fights we want. Totally ignorant of the fact that 2022 has been an awesome year. It started off with a bunch of undisputed fights and title unification fights and undefeated champions fighting each other. Towards the end of the year, it looks like we might end up getting a fight between Zurdo Ramirez and Dimitri Bivol. possibly getting that fight between Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. We know we're going to get that third fight with Triple G and Canelo. We're also going to get the return of Deontay Wilder. So the end of this year is shaping up quite nice for boxing. Pay attention, folks. You don't want to miss the closing of 2022 when it comes to boxing. Now, got the Zurdo thing out the way. Let's talk about the return of the Bronze Bomber. Bomb Squad! I love saying that. The return of Deontay Wilder, folks. Just formally announced October 15th, he's going to make his return to the ring against the 6'7" Swedish Viking-looking dude, Robert Helenius. Now, for those of you that don't know, Robert Helenius is coming off of back-to-back knockout wins over Adam Konoski. Contrast that with Deontay Wilder's back-to-back losses to Tyson Fury. Either way, it should be an interesting matchup. We get a chance to gauge where Deontay Wilder is at in his career. I think a lot of folks need to take into account that, yes, despite the fact that Deontay Wilder has magnificent amounts of power in his right hand, when you take a vicious beating like he did at the hands of Tyson Fury in his last fight, it can diminish a fighter. Will we see the same Tyson Fury that was there leading up to the Tyson Fury fight? The same patient Deontay Wilder that can lose rounds like he did to Luis Ortiz and still come through with that knockout punch? Deontay Wilder is the type of fighter that had so much phenomenal power in that God's gift of a right hand that he could lose every round of a fight all the way towards the last round of a fight and still potentially knock you the hell out. So I know there's a lot of people out there that are critics of Deontay Wilder. I'm not one of them. I think that outside of Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder has a good chance of knocking out anybody in the heavyweight division. Yes, that includes Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk. That's just my opinion. I'm allowed to have one of those. Now, we're going to find out where Deontay Wilder is up against Robert Helenius. It's kind of an interesting match. It's interesting that Deontay Wilder picks his comeback fight this October against Robert Helenius. Robert Helenius was a former sparring partner of Deontay Wilder. Okay. Goodness, I'm choking on my own spit, folks. Anyways, so Deontay Wilder is going to come back to the ring. Deontay Wilder is making his comeback to the ring on October 15th. He's going to be fighting Robert Helenius. Robert Helenius was a former sparring partner for Deontay Wilder. In fact, he was there in camp with Deontay Wilder in the build-up to that third fight with Tyson Fury. So they are familiar with each other. So at the very least, we should get two guys who are at a fundamental level understand how each other moves. Does that mean Robert Helenius gets knocked out? Does that mean Deontay Wilder gets knocked out? We're going to find out on October 15th, folks. I'm very excited. Let me know what you folks out there think about the upcoming fight with Zurdo and Bivol. Also, Deontay Wilder and Robert Helenius in the comment section. Hit like if you haven't already done so, folks. Are you not already following? Anyways, I'm out, folks. This is Hot Boxing Minute, the future of boxing analysis on YouTube. Peace.